Hello, everyone. This is Prabhjot, and today we have a very distinguished guest among us whose name is Andrew. He doesn't need much of the introduction, but still, I would hand over the mic to Andrew for a brief introduction about yourself, uh, about your career, and about being a founder of the config team. Over to you, Andrew.
Hey, thanks, Prab. Really appreciate the invite this afternoon and your time. So yeah, I'm Andrew Moses. I head up the config team. Effectively started the company this summer. It'll be 30 years ago. I've had two jobs. I used to work at Procter & Gamble. I started off there during my computing for industry degree, Prab, and just kind of landed lucky really on the SAP project there. They were implementing R2, so it's almost in black and white with SAP there. And I was trained in ABAP on their finance project actually. And yeah, after graduating, I started there full time. Stayed there for a couple of years, and made a really difficult decision to leave because I still love P&G. They're a great company. I learned a lot there, met some great people there. But they weren't implementing R3, and R3 was the new big thing around 1994.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I left P&G and effectively went contracting by myself at first. Yeah.
Good to know, Andrew. So, going a little bit into your personal life. So, as a founder, now you said that you have been into this close to around 30 years. If you would not have been the founder of the config team, what would you have been?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess I quite like learning all the time. So I think it was probably one of them sliding door moments of getting into SAP. So but I think I would have always been inquisitive, whichever kind of field I dropped into. So I've actually really quite enjoyed learning. Started off in ABAP in SAP. Went a little bit into basis with P&G too. But then I just kind of felt lucky because I was on a project in Munich. I was doing data loads. I was programming them data loads. My work was going all right. I was kind of on plan, on target. And the project manager asked for a volunteer because the WM consultant at the time could only give the customer 1 day a week. So I kind of put my hand up to volunteer and learned WM, and just haven't looked back since. So I'm not sure what else I would have done, but I'm not very good at spelling, and I'm all right at maths. So something definitely not writing a book, that's for sure.
Sure, sure. Interesting. And if you have to start your career all over again now, today, okay, with all the knowledge that you have, what would you do again?
Well, I think I would have probably been more decisive about bringing in a kind of leadership team into what we do. So that's really helped us scale and grow. I think the power of hiring really good people is phenomenal. So I think I would have probably done that earlier. I was very lucky. I learned a lot at Lancaster University Management School over the last kind of 18 years, working with other business leaders, and that was some of the advice that they give me. But I was relatively slow at implementing that advice.
Okay, okay. So yeah, it's good to have a good leadership team to build a foundation for an organization. Even in my case, so even my focus is on hiring a good talent, probably people smarter than me. So that's how I see it. Interesting. And then
And without doubt, I mean, it's just phenomenal having really good brains in the company, and I think that's it makes. I think it's two things really. One is hiring really bright people that have a real potential. Some of them already have experience, But what we try to do, Prab, is hire people that are not just good technically, but are really nice interpersonal people as well. So we don't just hire very deep knowledge people. The ideal person is they have really deep knowledge or really good potential to have that deep knowledge, but they're very nice people and they're interpersonal people. And that's a pleasure both to work with, but also our customers enjoy working with too.
Right. Yeah. At least you should have someone who can talk to the clients apart from the work. So someone who is good at interpersonal skills, who can build relationships. I believe those are very important skills to have. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then what is one thing which has kept you going over the past 30 years? Like, is there any particular saying you live by, or is there any particular story that you want to share?
Well, I definitely like implementing really good systems, and implementing SAP is quite challenging. So I think it's just it's almost like a complex puzzle sometimes, and I think there is a joy trying to kind of do a really good job at complex puzzles. And I think it's also true to say that what we do and is a profession. It's not a commodity. And I think what we try to do is delight our customers. I really try to care about our team. That's very, very important. But I think there's a space in the market for a company that really kind of cares about the implementation as well. We try to not have a big wall between us and the customer. We try to effectively hope the customer just feels like we're part of their team. We build that kind of trusted relationship over time with genuine help.
Yeah, it's like doing having a good relationship first and then doing the business later. So it's very important thing to have. Yeah. And then how about so people generally say that you need to have a larger vision in your life in order to make a company successful. So is there any other larger vision that you have?
Well, I think we've expanded to Australia in the last 3 years, and that's been terrific. I think we're working really hard to carry on growing the company. I think I'm really keen to make sure that we do things really well for a long time, and hopefully we have a legacy of good implementations and really enjoyable work going forward, and our reputation isn't tainted. I think there's a lot of car crashes and train crashes out there, and I am proud about what we've done in the past. We just don't want to do any train crashes or car crashes out there. So I think sometimes we get involved with other people's train crashes and car crashes, but I think there is a good way of implementing SAP. It's a fantastic piece of software if it's implemented correctly.
Absolutely. So it no doubt about it. So SAP, I have been into SAP from the past 17, 18 years, and then it's a beautiful software. And I used to joke my wife that I am married first to SAP than you. So that's how I have been joking her throughout my life. Yeah. So good that you care a lot about SAP, Andrew. So let's dig deep into the area where you specialize in. It's like the EWM, TM, and business network for logistics. So what inspired you to focus only on the areas like the extended warehouse management, warehousing, transportation, logistics? It's very boring field, Andrew. So how come you entered into this?
Yeah, I know you're joking there. It's not boring at all. It's absolutely wonderful. I mean, from that initial project in Munich, that was in 1996 in WM, and so that's a long time. I've been doing this for 28 years now in the logistics kind of area, the supply chain, and it's interesting. I think we look at our profession internally that we're not IT, we're not necessarily supply chain. We're kind of hopefully on a bridge between that. Sometimes there's a chasm there, isn't there? And I think what there's a joy in trying to effectively put in good solutions that actually add value, and bring what the IT team brings to it, what the supply chain demands from the business, and that can be a really kind of fulfilling area to do. It also brings up some really generally complex challenges. So from the original kind of WM SAP's evolved so much, hasn't it? And I remember almost at a customer site reading the release notes and realizing, wow, SAP's brought out SAP Console, because I'm that old that I was there before any of that existed, and we used to have to go with iDocs to a third-party mobility system, and then it got incorporated in. But then SAP brought out things like handling unit management, and they've carried on just evolving the solution. WM evolved into EWM, and I think it's now SAP have done a pretty good job really of creating a very rich tool set for customers to have. I think the challenges for some customers is to work out how to implement that quite complex toolkit. But I think they have responded, SAP, to maybe less adoption because people saw other systems as best of breed. And I think you look at the functionality in SAP now, it's truly terrific. And that integration with TM, like you say, and what you can hang on in the future with the business network for logistics, like you mentioned. So EWM, let's face it, it's in Gartner's top quadrant of solutions now. And I was chatting to somebody at Gartner. They were actually saying, I'm not sure if this is true, but they were saying that EWM is probably the biggest WMS in the world, or at least SAP is, because obviously people are transitioning from WM over to EWM going forward. But they're from an actual use base, from a number of big customers out there, it's definitely got a very high use base. So there's a lot to go at, I guess. But the other thing to mention is, I think our origins were definitely in that kind of WMS space, IM, WM, EWM, of course. But nowadays our expertise goes slightly wider than that. You mentioned obviously TM, but we also do an awful lot, and we have done for a long time, in manufacturing. And we also recently, over the last 2 or 3 years, we've brought in some extremely good architects in finance, because all stock has a cost. And so we can now we do 2 types of projects really. We're very good at deep kind of supply chain projects, and we always will be. But we can also take on wider S4 projects, S4 transformation projects, where really there's a core in supply chain. That's key. And we've got that now backed up with our 24/7 support with our AMS team as well. So I think that's there's just so much endless things to learn with SAP, and it's adopting, it's changing all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, yes, good that you mentioned that about AMS. So how important is it to have a good collaboration with the companies who are on the other part of the geography, just to support you on the 24/7, or is it only going solo would help?
Well, I think we do 2 types of AMS. We do deep, effectively AMS support for EWM projects that we either have installed ourselves or other customers have put that in, and they don't want their global SI or AMS provider to look after that EWM system. They know it's a complex beast, and they want experts to look after it. So we can look deeply at AMS with EWM and TM. But also we do offer full kind of service support AMS as well. And that's a real growth area for us. So when we look at that from a 24/7 point of view, it's generally from a full service point of view, it's not necessarily buyers or accountants from our customers that are awake in the middle of the night. It's generally supply chain that is awake at the middle of the night and needs looking after. And that's where we've got the Australian team to also help us out with that 24/7 model. So rather than wake somebody up in the middle of the night, here we can actually rely on somebody that's already awake in the other side of the world.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, having an office in Australia also had certain advantages I didn't know. Good, Andrew. So, what do you think about what are the latest trends in the market in related to the EWM first. Let's first discuss about EWM.
I mean, the first thing to say probably about that question is there's actually more adoption to EWM. Look, and that's for good reason. You know, we in the past, over the last couple of decades, really, we've implemented to a lot of third-party solutions that customers have chosen to go with 3PL solutions, and not had everything controlled by the warehouse management system from SAP. That involves hugely complex interface and jobs. We've done a lot of them over the years. We're pretty good at them. And I think now there's more acceptance that the integration with SAP is so important, and it comes effectively as part of the product with EWM. And from a functionality, it's really a like for like with the other systems out there. So we've kind of focused on two bits really with EWM, and that is that there's a complexity of that. So we try to really get the right complexity for the customer, and make sure that they understand what they're getting with EWM. And we've also focused on the usability of it as well, and that's where we've kind of built our pre-built solution from a mobility point of view, to really allow people to use EWM, get a lot of productivity out of using it, and hopefully enjoy using SAP from a mobile point of view in the supply chain too. So what we want to do is allow people to actually enjoy using EWM, enjoy using SAP supply chain across whatever module, whether it's IM, whether it's WM, whether it's stockroom management or EWM, is to get the users really engaged with the system, and enjoy using that in a very productive way.
Yeah, I'm sure you must have focused more on the UI side, because it's generally from the SAP side, it's a little dull. But then once you're building something on top of it, it has to be interesting. So-called, sexy looking screens, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, our pre-built solution is hopefully it looks and feels like a consumer app. It looks and feels like you would use Amazon on your phone or Facebook. That's what we've designed it to. So it's a modern UI, but it's also it really does help. The black spot handling with it is great, so you don't get dropouts. We're building really nice innovations like gamification to really kind of build that camaraderie in the team. We're joining team members as well with our messaging functionality, which that helps build a community in there. It helps build retention in the workforce in supply chain, and that's a big deal in a lot of countries right now. With there's a big demand to retain staff and attract staff. I think you probably have seen as well with your experience, right? Paper is last century, but there's still a lot of people use paper to drive the supply chain, which is obviously frustrating, but hopefully using a really good front end solution like Pre-built can take that away and get that kind of real potential of productivity into the workforce.
Right. Yeah, so good. I've had a chance to have a look at your solution. It's really good. And yeah, so how do you foresee the future of transportation management as well as the business network for logistics? Do you get more queries on the TM side or on the BN4L side?
Yeah, we definitely get more queries on the TM side, that's for sure. I think from a kind of roadmap with TM, I think that there will be kind of more scenarios coming out with the advanced shipping and receiving functionality. That'll definitely give greater integration with the business networks for logistics as well across EWM and TM. And with TM as well, a bit like EWM, we've seen a lot of focus from SAP on the public cloud offering and how that is eventually going to be integrated with that. So I think we're going to be evaluating the pros and cons of that, and helping customers, understanding what's out there from SAP, which is really important, and then advising customers. From a business network for logistics point of view, I think there's huge potential in that. I think it's very early days, and I think a platform like that, it kind of lives or dies really with the participation and the investment by others as well. So it could help SAP, with carriers, with shippers, and to participate in that and like get on board into that kind of framework. So it's still very early days in that area, but I think what SAP has done is built something that has a really interesting potential going forward.
Yeah. And then, SAP is also facing a lot of challenges from the market where there are lightweighted, probably very inexpensive softwares also available in the market who are like replacing the BN4L. So the challenges are, probably in the every market, the challenges are there, but then for SAP, they'll have to, do more work towards the streamlining of the business network for logistics and also on the TM side. And I believe, over the period of time, because initially, when I remember, even EWM was not very stable. When I'm talking about 7.1, 7.2, it was not very stable. So we did one implementation at India's first implementation, in fact, it was. And the statuses used to not get updated back to the delivery. So those days I've seen, and then I've seen these days. So I can, it makes me proud when I see, EWM in the magic quadrant that, okay, finally this software is there at the top, and then we are working into that. So yeah, it took a lot of time for EWM to get stable. And I am hopeful that even TM and Business Network for Logistics would also follow the same path, just like the EWM.
I'm sure. I mean, SAP obviously put a lot of effort into getting feedback from customers too on where they would like evolution. And similar to your example, I remember way back where I was trying to get handling units working in WM, and a similar kind of challenge, and then a similar bit of fulfillment when we actually got it kind of working with a few extra OSS nodes. But it was very early days and it's such a stable solution now, and I think that's where we get into with EWM. Like you say, it's a very stable solution. The things like the MFS material flow system that links to, you could obviously link it directly through to AGVs, but also there's a real technique and skill in knowing whether to how to link things to different things, whether or not you link to the warehouse control system or directly to the PLC. But the solutions that come out really work well. And I think it's up to maybe organizations like we have, perhaps, to really give a customer a strong indication that that's going to work in a good way. And obviously, what we probably both do as organizations is test and get experience of, then obviously being able to show customer exactly how it works from other of our customers too, to reassure people that what they're going to go into is going to work properly for them under volume.
Yeah, absolutely. Giving confidence to the customer is very important, because this is how they'll feel, good, and then they will also feel like their experience towards using the software would also change. The only importance that a customer gives to the software is that whether it's going to change the experience that I'm getting today versus what I'll be getting in the future. So I believe, the experience does matter a lot on this.
Absolutely. I think that kind of genuine trust as well, that that's about relationships, isn't it? That's about, obviously proving what you've done before, proving what the system can do, but not taking too much of a leap of faith as well. If you are taking a leap of faith, then be honest about it and do a trial, do a test run, do a day in the life, make sure that it works under volume. So I think there's an element of honesty in there as well. If you are doing something quite leading edge, if something has just come to the market, etc.
Agree. And then, it's really very important to actually care about the customer, right? Because if you don't care, if you care only about making money, then that's not going to work for a long period of time. Yes, you can definitely make some quick bucks from a particular client, but then you lose on the relationship. If you start genuinely caring about your customers, what problems they face, you feel like, okay, the problem if they face are like very genuine, and then you feel, okay, I should be doing something great in order to you know pick them from that particular situation to move to a better situation. Then I believe that customer would be yours for like even 20 years down the line.
Yeah, we've got some customers that we're very active with all around the world now that we've been with for 23 years. So, but I think it is, reputation's a very hard thing to kind of build. It's very easy to lose, isn't it? So, I think we really do try to care, and I think there's also an element of delight in there as well. You can actually really impress a customer as well, with even small things. So I think that's a good challenge for our team as well on an
Yeah,
ongoing basis.
agree. Yeah, going a little bit beyond what they expect is absolutely, it will definitely delight the customer.
I mean, if you think about that now, there's a lot of huge amount of effort moving people from ECC to S4, right? And there's a genuine, I mean, I was kind of on a Gartner supply chain conference, and the opening keynote referred not to SAP, but just in general to ERP systems, where people get exhausted through these implementations and almost get to a point where the initial scope gets de-scoped, and then there's a phase two, and then towards phase one go live, there's actually quickly a phase 1B, and by the time they go live, everybody's exhausted, and everybody effectively, the customer ends up with about 30% of what they set up for, and that's just not a great place to be, is it? So I think that's maybe the difference between working with a generalist or a specialist, really, is to try and get more than 30% out of that original implementation. And it is a superb system, but sometimes it's about the scope that people take on. And obviously these big S/4HANA transformations, they're huge, so it's a case of what gets priority.
Yeah, no, agree to it. So yeah, moving to our next question. So what are some of the big challenges that you see that companies face, and then especially in the implementation projects, and
Yeah.
how do you overcome those?
Yeah, I think, one of the bigger challenges is creating that relationship. I think you've obviously worked with a customer. The customer wants to move forward, and trying to really get to understand from a customer's point of view that we're not a commodity, that we're a real profession. I'm very proud of our profession. And eventually you can move to being a trusted advisor you've got to earn that, from a consistency point of view. So I think one of the challenges I think that people have got right now is to effectively try to manage risk. And I always think of risk as that we want to be bold, but we want to manage risk both from a customer point of view and for our point of view as well. We want to have a smooth go live. We want to effectively come out of hypercare on time, and everybody be really pleased with the solution. So I think some of them challenges is trying to not to just look at these implementations and the partners of them implementations as a commodity, and try to work as a team, and that needs really big interpersonal skills from all parties, and trying to work as a team, get that team camaraderie, get that momentum. It's much better if you work closely with the end customers. There's some incredible people at end customers that could probably be incredible consultants if they went down that path. So it's really powerful not to kind of build up a them and us mentality at all, and to really respect everybody from the customer, and hopefully the customer really does respect everybody from our team as well. That's sometimes not there, but I think hopefully they see us as that professional partner with deep expertise, and we build that trust over time. So I think there is a lot of challenges for companies out there, and that's when they're trying to get a lot of things done very quickly, and they end up with a fairly blunt tool at the end of it, really.
And how do you see change management being, the integral part of the projects?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, if you look at now with public cloud coming in, that's change management is going to be even more important because there's a lot less things to configure, right? So, but even if you don't just look at public cloud, if you look at private cloud as well, I mean, the key thing is you can be very, very artistic in a project. Customer can be very artistic. This is a big chance for them to have everything they want, and you can use there's a lot on that clean core statement. There's a lot of benefits from that. There's a lot of benefits from long-term support if you are more standard. There's less risks from the project of building things, and less risks for companies like us to build things. What we've tried to do over time, Prab, is to really reduce the amount of actual build that we do one-of-one for a customer. So if you imagine things, I think going back 15, 20 years, it was very normal for these projects to be huge. Everything that was asked for was effectively a RISE. If it was looked at, we would build it in depth just for one-of-one for them customers. And I guess the birth of our software came out of doing recurring builds of one-of-one. So lots of RF transactions, for instance. I mean, back in the day in WN, there wasn't a bin-to-bin transaction. That was a very, very good seller when we first started off on this, because there was nothing in SAP Console or ITS to do that in WM. So we've kind of effectively industrialized some of them common gaps that we see. And that genuinely is good for us because we don't have to write the same functional spec and technical spec every time. But it's also really great for a customer because effectively it becomes effectively clean core because, for instance, pre-built now, we're almost 30,000 end users. I mean, there's the reliability of that has to be there. And so building something one-of-one it's very risky, So I think that's one of the key themes going forward. That there's a lot of customers want to build a lot of things because they've got quite big teams and they're used to that. There's a lot of customers who have been on a journey with SAP before, maybe 15, 20 years, who just kind of want to build something very bespoke. And so I think trying to get that less build into a project is a very, very good thing going forward.
I think even from the partner's point of view, SAP's partner's point of view, even they'll have to go through this change management, right? Because they have been very used to doing the business in a one style. So since the strategy has changed directly from on-prem to the cloud, and so you'll also have to change your mindset. Like if you have to create an innovative product, so you first have to think about the cloud first and then on-prem second, right? So this is also a change of mindset, not only from the customer's point of view, but also from the partners like you and me.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's like technical architecture type changes, isn't there, with what you've just mentioned there, and also from a process point of view as well. I mean, trying to look at what SAP has developed, for instance, in public cloud, and that's going to kind of change a little bit of, from a consulting point of view, we're going to have to be more working on change management with the customer. Say, look, I know you would like to normally build something in this, but let's have a look at what SAP has done. Let's properly have a look at that. Let's just check out it will work for you. Let's have a look at that. Let's show you it working in our system. Let's explore that together, rather than effectively the customer sometimes being very demanding that they want something bespoke building for themselves. So, it's more, it puts a more emphasis on people with industry experience in that particular area. So if I talked about our finance team, they've been in finance departments in organizations. A lot of our consultant team have been in operation, whether it's manufacturing or been in a warehouse environment, and is to try and relate and just then take people on that journey to try and take in that SAP standard approach, which is being used at many other customers, and to try and go away from building bespoke solutions. There'll always be a need for some bespoke, especially when you link interfaces to other systems, So that's, if you look at different bits of automation, but I think you can also industrialize how you link to them, to whatever the engineers, whatever the sites demand, or whatever interfaces, maybe from a tax point of view, that the accountants want to use. There is different techniques that are much better to use for interfacing.
Right. And then there are a lot of emerging technologies nowadays, like AI, machine learning, buzzwords.
Yeah, I mean, look, we had quite a few of our team at Sapphire in Orlando recently, and they came back and said pretty much every keynote was discussing the possibilities of AI, and it's absolutely exciting. And the key thing is, I think what our job is, what our industry's job is to really have a look at how that evolves. Where the use cases are, and there's some interesting early, like, conversational AI functionality. So we've tried that, we've dabbled with that with Pre-Built. We've got a kind of working model where you can just press the microphone on the device and talk into it and ask it, what have we got of a certain stock item, and give part of the description of that, and it comes back with an awful lot of information that it's kind of sourced from the SAP database on where that's at, how many bins it is, like what's the description of it in master data, what's the material code, etc. So that's pretty cool as an early. We've just been kind of playing with it a little bit, but I think there is I think that the biggest challenge is going to kind of trust what AI comes back, and some of that trust has got to have just like really solid data in the system first of all. That will build really good use cases, and I think I was chatting to my colleague Chris about this, and he said, we need to avoid AI hallucinating that something it suggests something, but if the data is not right, it's not necessarily going to give the right outcome. But it's an incredibly interesting area that has definitely got a future on, and there's going to be a lot of people really trying to find where them use cases are going forward.
Do you believe that AI is more than a buzzword?
Yeah, no, I think it is. I mean, we've already got some ideas on how we're trying to look at that, and I think the more that you look at it, I think we've got things that we want to start co-innovating with some customers. We often find that's a really great way of taking an idea to the next level. So it might be a kind of future topic for another time, but I think I don't think it's just going to die off at all. There's certain different things at conferences that kind of come and go, but look, I mean, the power of it is going to be immense. And even if you look at how you get productivity and accuracy in the supply chain, it's got real kind of fairly obvious use cases in that when that gets going.
I was reading one article, and it said, see, there are wide variety of views all across the globe, right? And one of the view was generative AI is not worth the money, right? They say, especially in the business case, so the amount needs to be spent is like huge, but what you get is not worth the money you spend. So it's another point of view of the people who have actually, must have faced something really very unique, so that they reach to the conclusion. But yes, for sure, if you have something great in mind, and then you believe that it's definitely worth the money, I'm sure.
Well, I have quite a kind of strong opinion on that one, because I agree with you, that's a danger. And if you look at some things in the past, people spend millions of pounds on a certain kind of effectively exploration and innovation, which is quite right in some cases from a customer point of view. But I think what we've tried to do with some customers, we've enjoyed the challenge of connecting things with SAP, trying new things in SAP, and being honest with them, but starting off small, getting the proof or not, as the case may be, that thing works in the operation, and like effectively having a check step. Do we take that further forward? Does it go to more than one line, or does it go to more than one place in a warehouse, and then take it further forward? So it's almost like a pilot or a proof of concept type of thing, and then it's trying to then industrialize that at the customer to get the value out of it. And you can do that with a specialist company really well, with a very large kind of global SI. That's often, it's going to be a multi-million-pound kind of venture, whereas with a specialist, you can really try and explore that together, and then obviously what we've got then is the benefit of taking that further forward into many other customers as well, and sharing that kind of learning.
Right. Yeah, I was talking to my colleague a couple of days back, and I was saying a couple of months ago we were talking about data science, data analyst, data scientists, and now suddenly those words, I don't hear them. I hear them generative AI, business AI, and all those things. So it's a technological phase, I believe. Even though they're not irrelevant, I would say they are still relevant. But then, okay, the focus of the world has changed to the conversational AI, especially after OpenAI and the others and the Gemini, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think that analytics and that data science thing absolutely has a place probably in another 10 years. It's got a bit less kind of headlines recently, hasn't it? But SAP is a wonderful system. The engine underneath the database is fantastic. And it's how customers use it that's the issue. It's how customers are advised how to use it. And, so that there is a real benefit of understanding how it can be used properly, and where the data is at, and how the data is cleansed, and how the transactions will be done as fast as possible, etc., and give you guidance about how the business can adapt. And business changes, so it's having that flexible approach to adapt the system as well, and use the information that's in SAP to a company's advantage. I don't think that's necessarily there a lot right now, but there's a real potential to still do that. And AI is going to use data, isn't it? So it still comes down to that level of how accurate that is, but also how granular the data is as well. And I think, if you look at what, for instance, IoT, that was another big thing, wasn't it?
Right.
But it's still a big thing. It's probably bigger than ever right now, but it's just not got the headlines. But the granular data that can bring into a supply chain, or with other kind of elements of SAP as well, is wonderful. So I think AI is definitely a key thing going forward, but there's other things that have been key things that are still there and haven't totally died off.
Yeah, so AI is like the topmost layer, but then when it comes to IoT, which the poor guy which just collects the data is not getting more headlines.
Yeah, I mean, we've created another solution. One of our software solutions is called Coding Control, that links devices on a shop floor. We've learned a lot about that, and we learned a lot from linking cranes and conveyors to EWM, almost in the inception and the build of that solution. And there is genuine benefits about having that data flow from SAP to a device, whatever that device is, on a shop floor system, and then have it come back as well. So we basically engineering the plumbing almost between that to have that seamless flow of data. It avoids kind of manual typing in to different devices, and it just takes out kind of human error. So there's also things like preventative maintenance, where we can actually get APIs out of devices, and we can flag that up. We can send that to an engineer when a tolerance is hit, before something's kind of hit a problem. We can send that information for an engineer to go and do whatever they need to do to make sure it doesn't become a problem. So there's some preventative kind of areas as well to look at. So there's a whole ton of really good fun around that companies can get a lot out of in the future. There's not a lot of companies actually implemented deeply in that area. So there's huge potential for things to be connected, both within a company, and also I'm a really big believer of a connected supply chains as well going forward.
Yeah, I believe the success stories need to be more told to the customers, like what are the benefits of the supply chain, especially the connected supply chain, where even in the transportation management, if your truck is connected to the backend system, the potential is huge. And then now you talk about the robots and the flexible or the movable aisles. So all these are connected part of the same supply chain. it sometimes I get surprised when I think of the potential of if everything is connected, like starting from the purchasing, receiving, keeping it in the warehouse, transportation, logistics. If you can have it in one system, like especially like a cockpit, then I believe the potentials are huge in that case.
Yeah, absolutely. And you must have seen it before where a customer, for whatever reason, decides to buy a piece of either another system or a piece of hardware. And often it's almost an afterthought, right? How are we going to connect that to SAP? And I think that's where hopefully things will change, that'll be, part of the decision and a lot of detail about how best to implement that, because there's really kind of blunt ways to interface and really very beautiful ways to interface as well. So obviously you're really after the best ways to connect. But that's where I come back to that bridge between IT and supply chain, for instance. We can't predict what we have to be really agnostic about what robot or what device or what system somebody would want to connect to, but we just have a real responsibility to know how to connect to them systems in the best way.
Hmm. You have some interesting stories to share, Andrew, I must tell you.
Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure having a chat on a Friday afternoon. I mean, you can only watch so much tennis, Prab, right?
No, I don't. I only watch cricket and we won, so now I'm
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
watching.
Yeah,
Oh,
pretty good result. Pretty good result from India recently.
yeah. And yeah, coming to final few questions. So, what advice would you like to give to the companies who are looking to implement EWM, maybe as a standalone or as an embedded, including TM? Yeah. So, what advice would you like to give?
Well, I think if just be really clear, I think, about what it is that is in scope. Try to keep as clean as possible with what is standard, and get advice about what needs to be built for your company, but also have a good look at what's out there. I think I obviously we've got several different bits of software that we do, and we really enjoy and implementing that around the world. And it's less risk for us, to be honest, to implement it as already built software rather than building it as a one-on-one for a customer. And that allows you to focus on not just being the authors of software within that project. It allows you to focus on the people and the processes and the change management and getting everybody trained up and getting everybody ready to go. It would typically be fairly late on in the project when you've actually got the whole system ready to use. And by taking in other certified solutions from SAP, and there's a lot out there, we just have some of them, there's an awful lot out there to choose. You can get them in early, you can actually see them work, and you can see them working in other organizations. It's going to work, the integration is going to be quick, and then you can get on with exactly knowing what that future is going to feel like to drive, basically. And then you can teach everybody how to use it properly. And I think that's one of the key things going forward is to, and hopefully that just avoids them train crashes I was on about.
Yeah.
IT projects are prone to failure, and it's not SAP's software that creates that failure, it's how it's implemented.
No, it's if you don't involve business, if you consider SAP implementation as an IT project, sooner or later you are going to fall. And what I've done in one of the project is that I went there and then I told them, okay, what's your mission statement? Okay, what's your organization's goal? Okay, so there must be a goal. So then we need to plan backwards. Okay, so this is your mission. So this is what you want to achieve. So what we would need to achieve there, now let's talk on those.
Sure.
That's
I think the other thing on that is I've always talked at the complex implementations. I'm not involved directly necessarily with them now. My role is slightly different, but where we really look at what's core and what's secondary, and even what's tertiary. And they
Right.
could be really important, them other processes, but to test and test and test what's core is so important. You want a fluidity in them early
Agreed.
stages. You want everybody really to know what them processes are, and for that to work really well. So don't get too distracted by something that doesn't happen very often, but also be aware of it and you know, have a solution to it, absolutely, but really don't get too excited about that left field solution if the core solution is not tested properly.
Agree, Andrew. Could not agree more to this. Absolutely on target. And how do you ensure that there is a continuous improvement and innovation within your own organization? Now I'm talking about the config team, not the clients.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is, look, I love innovation. You know, it's a real passion of mine, and I think our customers know we like innovation too. Our partners know we like innovation. They know we're quite trusted. You know, we've got a real capability of linking with other things or building solid solutions as well. I think they know we're honest as well, and we've got a passion for solving pretty complex challenges. So I think you know, like I've said a few times, the SAP product's really good, but there's a huge amount of potential out there. We talked about AI. We've talked about some of the solutions that we've already done, and I'm excited that we kind of carry on and you know, enhance the stuff we've already built. You know, there's some really exciting things coming down the line in the roadmap of pre-built in particular, but also that we explore with our customers what else we should build. You know, so I think from an innovation point of view, you know, we've talked about code and control. It's a joy to implement that, and things are really solid when they build properly. I'm really proud about how the engineer and how the design and the engineering gets done, so that things can be used in a really industrial way all around the world. So I think our team know that innovation is really important to us, and you know, let's face it, SAP is evolving all the time, and the whole range of things that can link to a supply chain in particular are changing all the time. So we've really got to keep co-innovating with our customers.
Okay, so how often do you co-innovate with your customers? Like, do you do very often, or do you do it all by yourself?
No, I think we would show an interest. We do, for instance, innovation days to look at what's the art of possible. That sometimes kind of triggers interest. Sometimes the customer has ideas, and sometimes we have ideas, and sometimes, you know, so it depends. A lot of ideas come from customers. That's absolutely true. But then what we will hopefully do is take them ideas, work with the customer, and really develop them well. You know, so like as an example, we were really interested in RFID. We partnered with Siemens on that. Siemens are real experts in that field, and you know, we then we innovated with an automotive company with a trial of RFID in there, and it was really enjoyable. You know, so and we kind of had a certain scope, and we stuck to that scope, and then, you know, we could test on the potential ROI of taking that further forward with that. So you know, we're doing some very interesting innovation right now with our customers, which is about connecting supply chains, which is you know, keeping us pretty happy from an innovation point of view. But definitely AI is a key part of what we want to be able to kind of really look at, and we're obviously assessing that very early on. But you know, we're not short of ideas. I think that's an interesting thing. There's a lot of big companies out there that don't have many ideas. We have a lot of ideas, and we just want to kind of sift through which ones have the right potential going forward.
Yeah, you can also probably co-innovate with one of your probably a lesser known partner. You can do that, or probably someone who is not in your field, but then can help you like build a couple of solutions. Yeah, so that
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's a great example of that. Just, I mean, I posted something on LinkedIn today. There's a device called Cuboid. It's superb. It's a handheld device, but it's been invented by somebody who really knows what a vision system looks like, and they can see what the dimensions of a product is with just a handheld device, which is terrific. And we can take that, and we've linked that to SAP through pre-built, and that can bring an image in, but it can populate the master data of, you know, the size of that particular SKU, which is absolutely brilliant, and it'll save
Good
somebody a
example.
lot
Yeah.
of time. So, but it's and that's an exciting product. It's not for everybody, but hopefully it can it's much better if it's integrated to SAP than actually a separate system that somebody's got to do dual
Agree,
typing.
agree,
Don't
agree.
want any kind of, we want nice flow of information, really.
Agree to it. And now let's talk about the mindset of UK or probably largely European mindset versus the US mindset. Like if you talk about US, it's like they're more open to sending the information, or not exactly the information, or they are more open to working with people they don't really know. Okay,
Yeah,
where we have seen that people in the Europe, they prefer working with people who they know, or probably who knows the same language. So how do you see this? Is this a challenge? Is this something related to the change of mindset as is required, because the world is a global village now? We have
sure.
to move out. So what do you think about this?
No, it's a really fascinating question. I think there's definitely no lack of using an offshore model. I think we see that from a lot of the global system integrators. Effectively, it's the norm. Whether it's from the US or from Europe or from the UK. I think what we're trying to do is make sure that quality is there. And what we've done in the past is we've effectively, right now, our offshore team is our Australian team, and for our Australian team, our offshore is our UK team. We've tried to build a core team of fantastic, team members that all work for us full time, and I think that what we're trying to do is be have kind of little reliance on subcontractors. We still do use subcontractors. I think that for me it's around trust and the evidence of quality, and that's where I think you guys are slightly different, because you have a focus, you have a deep knowledge, whereas if you look at from a global SI point of view, yes, they will have a team somewhere else, but they tend to be kind of experts in lots of different modules, for instance. So it's interesting that we have rescue projects that have been offshored, and we've rescued projects that have been offshored where teams haven't been into the manufacturing site or the warehouse. However, we've also rescued projects that have been done exactly onshore as well. So that's a very important point. It's not necessarily about the offshore; it's about the actual implementation management sometimes, and it's about the acceptance that getting a supply chain solution for SAP is quite different to getting the finance system working, or getting the purchasing or the sales system working in SAP. It's very 3D. You've got to really get to know what you're building and really understand it deeply. So, I think you guys have a very deep expertise. That's what we do as well, and so there's commonality there, Prab.
Yeah, and then I believe rather than thinking of, even from the global point of view, because I've worked with so many big companies where the on-site and offshore model have been there. So there is a need of a collaborative approach. Okay, so
Absolutely, yeah.
it doesn't have to be offshore. Should be like, okay, the back office work has to go to the offshore. It has to be like more collaborative, more joint kind of an exercise of delivering the project, rather than just doing 2-3 objects offshore. So that doesn't work these days, to be honest with you. So the only thing that
I
works
think
is like the joint effort.
Yeah, you're right. And there's certain pieces of work that probably are more theoretically that can be done at a high quality offshore. The delivery of certain RICEPs, for instance, and things like that could well be outsourced. But I think what for me is important is that relationship with the customer, that understanding that there's an understanding of the actual operation, and that is a challenge when it's done entirely with offshore. So it's I think there's kind of horses for courses really on that.
Thank you. And then one final question. So what advice would you like to give to someone who is starting the business, or who wants to be in any kind of business? So what advice would you like to give him?
Well, I think it's trying to kind of work out what you want to be, and trying to look at what the differential is. So what you can really get deep expertise in, and not necessarily, it's important to know what you don't want to do as well.
Mm.
I think one of the key things as you build in a business, and we've both been doing this for a while, Prab, let's face it, but hire people that really fit in with your team, that are not just great at technical skills, but also really good team members that work well as a team. And I think you've got a lot more chance of success if you get team players rather than individuals. So I think that for me is really important, is that selection of who else is working in your organization, how they will work with end customers, and how they kind of really work from a teamwork point of view. And look, I think have fun as well. Try and have a bit of fun. I think that really helps. And effectively, I think the other thing I would say is, don't put all eggs in one basket. Spread the risk, and try to think. I know life's a lot of times around short term, and that's right, but also try to think about the medium and the long term as well, and where investments should be made, and which type of area that you should focus on in the future as well.
Good. Andrew, thank you very much for your time. And yeah, you are an interesting personality, Andrew. You have a lot to talk about. I will plan to meet you.
Yeah, I'd love to meet up, Prab. Let's do that.
Sure. Thank you very much, Andrew.